So, good evening to everyone who tuned in to our next episode with our Kano talk show. And today I'm speaking with Michael Badal, a renowned music producer and composer. His passion for music began as a toddler, watching his uncle, an Assyrian singer, perform. These early influences, combined with a love for drums and later DJing, shaped his unique blend of electronic, trance, and progressive sounds. Now a prominent figure in the industry, Michael's captivating melodies and immersive atmospheres have earned him collaborations with top artists and remixes for global superstars. Today, we'll discuss his creative journey, including his transition into film music, the challenges he's faced in the industry, the importance of his Assyrian identity, and his advice for young and upcoming musicians. Michael, thank you very much for taking time to talk to us today.
Thank you for having me.
Great, let's jump right in, I would say. Um, I myself am someone, as I just told you right now, am someone who's working in the media industry, and so I had to struggle with getting my foot into the door. And I think many people who are working in the creative space have that problem. So, looking back at at your early career, what were the key turning points that helped you transition from a hobby musician to a working musician and now a working composer also?
I would say, with that in mind, you could go one of two avenues, in my opinion. You can either uh, network through the internet and create your network and work remotely. The way I got my start in the music industry was essentially this was before the time of social media and things like that. It was about actually it's almost 20 years ago. Back then we used to mail out demo CDs. We would
Hmm.
burn the song that we want to get signed on a CD and we would actually mail it to labels. Um, so back then I had a list of 10 labels for my first single that I wanted to send it out. Nine of them were small labels.
Hmm.
The 10th one was a very large label. And I didn't think that I was going to get any sort of response from them, but I thought I had a good shot with the other nine. So I send out the CDs, and out of the 10 labels, only the big one responded
Oh,
and
perfect.
decided to sign it. Um, from that kind of just taking a chance, it already gave credibility to me as an artist from the jump with my first single, which allowed me to leverage other opportunities. That's basically when all of a sudden you start seeing some of those larger remixes come in, and it was really from my first year. I think in that year I remixed Above and Beyond. I mixed Timbaland. Tiesto was playing my stuff, but it was all just from deciding to send the 10th envelope to the big label.
Mm.
Um, so to distill that down in that avenue, I would say the things that feel uh, impossible or oh nobody would ever listen to that or why would they listen to me or why would they give me the time of day? Uh, you might be the only person sending in that package if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So just taking that chance is well worth it. The second one is I would say proximity is very important,
Okay.
where you live. So if you're not going to go the internet route, another way to get your foot in the door in the industry, especially in the film and television industry, is to try and live close to where the market is. So for me, I live in Los Angeles, but I also had the benefit and the chance uh, that I was born here and I've lived here my whole life. So proximity for me wasn't an issue. But I would say I'm not sure how the European market is. I know London has a very strong film and television
Mm.
market, but in the European Union, I'm not sure. I'm
In
not
Germany, I
versed with
think
it.
it's Cologne. Cologne is pretty big with television.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say living close there and having that ability to make friends.
Mm.
Because when it came to film and television, even though I went to school for it, school didn't really do much for me. But it was the people that I met in school or DJing at parties and things like that, or at nightclubs. Some of those people went on to get into the film industry themselves.
Mm.
And the way I got my foot in the door was really because of friends. Someone was working on these direct to television Christmas movies, and he needed help. He was a one man show, and they needed an entire film delivered in a couple weeks. So he called me up out of nowhere, knowing that I went to film school, but we knew each other as DJs. And he asked me, he goes, Michael, do you have time? I need help. Can you can you help me out on this film? And because I did those films with him, I had two feature films under my belt. But then other friends that I've met over the years were saying, "Oh, I didn't know you do that. I need help on this project. I need help on this project."
Mm.
That's where the commercials and the films started coming in. So really, it's again, very long answer to your question, but I would say either take a chance on yourself and go after opportunities online that you don't think that maybe you would qualify or that anybody would listen to you. And on the other end, move close to where the market is
Mm.
and make friends, develop friends because friends build each other up.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Thank you
that's
very
yeah.
much for that answer. And just a few comments, and to sum it up. So the thing about reaching out, as you said, it's I think about it. It's kind of like a numbers game, isn't it? Like, of course, if you reach out to one person, the probability that one person tells you no is pretty high. But
Yes.
if you reach out to 10, to 20, to 100 persons, uh, then of course it's more likely that some of them will say why not, as you described.
I agree. And the caveat with that is just to add a little bit of a layer to that. Whoever you're reaching out to, you always want to make them feel like they were the only person you reached out
Uh-huh.
to.
Okay.
So don't get caught doing a long stream of emails all in the same email.
Mm.
Take the time, write a separate pitch to who you're pitching. Try to make it personal to them, um, and see who bites.
Okay, that's great. And so, um, going back to that point again, for a short moment. So at that time you were 18, 19, 20, something around that?
No, I was 16.
16. Okay.
Yeah, I was
So,
16.
but if I think about the young generations today, I have the feeling that many of them are so overwhelmed with the opportunities they have. So
Yes.
what advice would you give someone who likes doing something, for example, music or film or something else, but but thinks maybe, oh, I'm not good enough, or maybe it's not right for me, or where should I start? Like,
I would say to answer that, that probably means you need to continue honing on your craft.
mm,
Granted, I continue to hone in on my craft every single day. I've been at this since the time I was first signed. That was 20 years ago this year.
mm,
I'm 30, I'm turning 36 this year. So it's been almost 20 years, but there's not a day that I don't try to learn something new. That's not my point.
mm,
There will never be a time where you have figured it all out. But I would say that if you don't like the things that you are creating, if you can't stand up in a room and say, I think what I made is good,
mm,
no one else is going to believe that. You are a salesperson, you're selling yourself. You are the product that you're trying to sell, as well as the art that you're creating. So if you don't think your art's any good, no one else is going to believe it, and no
Mm.
one else is going to buy it. No one else is going to market it. Um, yeah.
Okay, that's great, and that's a perfect perfect beginning for my next question,
Uh-huh.
because I ask myself, did you do you or did you ever have or experience the imposter syndrome? I think you know what it is, like feeling that you don't, for the viewers listening, feeling like you don't deserve it really, or maybe I shouldn't be standing here, and as you just said, like telling everybody, oh, I'm good, the things I'm doing are good. Did you ever experience that, or was it always like, no, I know what I'm doing, so?
So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword for me. I never thought that my craft wasn't good enough.
Hmm.
I had the confidence enough to reach out to labels. I clearly liked the music I was making and I was confident about it. Where I find my imposter syndrome is when, for instance, someone that I look up to gives me a compliment. Like
Mm.
I've had I've been blessed enough. You know how they say don't meet your heroes?
Hmm.
Well, I've met all of my heroes almost, and I've worked with many of them, and they've all been fantastic people, and I'm really happy that I met them and I got to work with them. But those are the situations that would give me imposter syndrome at
Hmm.
times, where it would be like, um, well, why would so and so want to work with me? I mean, he's so big, he's so good, he's been around for so long. Why me? Um, so it's a little bit of that kind of self-talk,
Mm.
but I think it's more of being nervous rather than thinking you're not good enough. At least for me,
Mm.
that's how it was for me.
Yeah.
It was just kind of it was almost feeling like uh, I'll give you a good example. Recently, I had an article come out in Mix magazine
Hmm.
where they were writing about me as a scoring mixer. The imposter syndrome for me came in, whereas I knew that that article was actually going to be really cool and get the word out that I'm moving into the film space and that I'm somebody to watch out for or what have you. Um, but I had only done two shows
Hmm.
and it was with the same composer. So for me, that imposter syndrome kicks in of what if somebody who's done 50
Mm.
television shows or whatever uh looks at it and goes, ah, this guy just started, why is he getting a article with Mixed magazine? What's the big deal? How come I don't have that? And I think that kind of talk is really what's going to hold you back.
Mm.
In the end, they wouldn't have written that article if they didn't think you deserved it or if they didn't want to talk about you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's natural to have a little bit of imposter syndrome, but it was never really crippling to me. It was almost kind of like a, um, have I earned it yet?
Hmm. Yeah, I understand 100%. And also to add to that, I think it's I always I talk with my brother a lot about this topic also, and we are also we are always talking to each other and saying, well, yes, maybe I only did two films with the same composer, but who has the same experiences I had in music before, and
Yeah,
and who can say that? And if you look at it from a broader perspective, so to say, you see, well, maybe there aren't so many people that can compete with me, so to say.
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, uh, yeah, that's very interesting how you describe that. And also going back to one point you mentioned earlier with building a network, making friends.
Yes.
How do you do that? Like, do you have some special way that you are you just being yourself, or are you really going straight at the right people, if you know what I mean?
No, it wasn't even that. I think when I say build your network, it's really just meet like-minded individuals that have the same interest as you,
Mm,
um or have a common goal that they want to reach. But no, I never made a friend that I wanted to um leverage, so to speak,
mhm,
if that makes sense. Because, for instance, the person that got me into films, his name is Scott Gold. I had known him since 2008, but we didn't start working together in that capacity until he called me up in 2021.
mhm,
So it was 13 years of us being just casual friends, that we would see each other at either, like, because we both liked house music, we'd see each other at events around town. We had common friends in the industry. But aside from making dance music together back in 2008 and 2009, we really didn't do anything together from that point until 2021, when he called me up asking for help on this project.
mm.
So uh it's just being I'd say, as cheesy as it sounds, being a good person,
Yeah.
and not being that guy that's a taker
Mhm,
constantly. Be a giver, because that insecurity, I think, would hurt you more in the long run. There are people that when they acquire uh, resources, contacts, techniques, things like that, they hold it onto themselves as if it's like some sort of uh, proprietary company secret for themselves. But that kind of isolationist mindset, to me, will make it to where you might go far, but I think your longevity will be very, very short, if you
mm.
go that way, because
Yeah, 100%.
nobody likes to work or hang out with somebody that thinks it's all about themselves.
Mm. There's this saying. I don't know if you heard of that quote of this quote before, but there's the saying: if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together.
I haven't heard that. I love that
Yeah,
though.
and I think that encapsulates perfectly what you just said. And we I think we also should never forget that we are relational beings. Like
Yeah.
without each other, you're nothing. Without the people that are listening or watching your art your artistry, who are you? You're
Hmm.
nobody, so to say. So I like your view on that very much. Just focus on being a great guy, and I don't think that it's cheesy. It's true. It's true. um, yeah. Okay. Let's go on to another topic because you also mentioned that before with transitioning now to film music. As I listen to your music, to your the to all of your tracks and so on, and I looked up on your website what you did. I got the feeling, or I asked myself, uh, I asked myself, do you see yourself more like a generalist or a specialist? And
Mm.
or do you even think about that in these categories? Because well, yeah, just go
No,
with
no,
that.
no. Go ahead, finish.
uh, because as we talked about before, that with the magazine article you mentioned, you said, well, you only have two pieces that you released in that sector, so
Yeah.
it feels like a generalist. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Yes.
please comment on that.
I would say so. I think when it came to the business mindset of this, right? So, not talking about being a forward-facing artist.
Hmm.
As an artist, you could do whatever you want. Uh, you can make an album in one genre, and then the next album you come out, you can say, "Oh, I had this journey over the last couple of years, and now I want to make this kind of music." Um, but in terms of working in media, I would say I had the knowledge of a generalist, and I could do the job of 15 different roles.
Hmm.
However, the industry doesn't want that. That's something
Mm.
that I've learned recently. Um, like I'm sure you looked at my previous works and it shows, oh, I've done mixing, I've done Foley, I've done sound design, I've done score mixing and such and such.
Mm.
But the way hiring people like producers or post-production coordinators or whoever it is, when they look at that, they go, okay, so which one are you? Are
Mm.
you a sound designer or are you a score mixer? Or are you a composer or are you a Foley artist? What is it? Because I'm confused. I'm confused. The way a friend of mine from film school, who I still talk to a lot, he looked at my website and my personal website, the michaelbadal.com, and he goes, "I'm confused by what you're trying to tell me to hire you for, because you show that you're a DJ and you're releasing all of these remixes and things like that, but also you have this film stuff, so I don't really know what you want to do. I'm confused. I'm going to walk away from it." He was just telling me that. So then when the score mixing came up uh, for these television shows, I started looking in on IMDb and thinking about it from a business perspective. Uh, if you go into something called the star ranking, it tells you how many individuals have put themselves or have been credited in um, certain roles.
Mm.
So for sound design, there was like 20,000 people.
Mm.
For composing, it's even more. I think it's like 100,000 people. And then when I was looking at score mixers, there's only 100.
Mm. Okay.
So I thought to myself, okay, well, if there's not that many people doing this, that means there should be plenty of opportunities out there. And it's very niche and nobody's really going for it because everybody wants the glamorous job of being a composer or a sound designer, but score mixing is still very much viable. So I essentially leaned into it. So when the article happened, I refreshed my website, tried to really make it score mixer,
Mm.
um, and become that specialist. Because once you get known for that specialty, I think you become first top of mind when someone's
Mm-hmm.
looking for that kind of role. So being a generalist is cool. I think it's good to be that way, especially starting out, because you don't know where you're going to land. And honing your skills in multiple things is not a bad thing. But as soon as you see the scale start to tip in a certain direction, I would say specialize in that and really try to market that certain thing. And when it comes to your brand messaging and you're selling yourself, really focus on that specialty that you do.
Mm. Okay. So basically, you're saying you should really clearly communicate what you want to get hired for.
Yes.
Not communicating what you like, because as a human being we like many things and we do
Yes.
many things, especially as an artist. But you should
Yes.
really look at like what does the industry want. And do you also have an explanation why the industry doesn't like it if you are so many things?
Um, I think it's more of a personal issue, to be honest with you, for them.
Hmm.
Um, like there's a director that I've done a bunch of commercials with, and for the longest time, he would see me as this one role.
Hmm.
But what's funny is I almost felt like I made a mistake being hired for that one role because I really wanted to work with him in a different capacity. And it wasn't until I started achieving accolades outside of working with him
Hmm.
that he realized, oh, Michael can do this. For some reason, it's just you just get in someone's mind. Like you were saying, you do videography, right, or
Hmm.
cinematography.
Yeah.
In that person's mind, you are a cinematographer. But if you want to be a gaffer uh, or assistant director, unless you've done a bunch of that work for them, they won't think of you for that role. They'll think of whoever they've worked with in the past.
Hmm.
So I don't think it's necessarily the industry, but more so the people hiring. It's like uh, that's just what they think of you of as, because that's what they remember you for.
Okay, I understand. So one last thing, because we talked about many things now in your early career, or into in the entry into the industry. What I'm also quite interested in is, how would you define success for yourself beyond commercial achievements even? Like, if someone quite young starts out now, would you which advice would you give him for his mindset about success?
I think I define success differently than a lot of people in the industry. I am very aware how privileged I am that I get to wake up in the morning.
Hmm.
And as we were talking about, being able to go to bed at 4 a.m. because I have a deadline, and waking up at 8 a.m. to continue that deadline, doing what I'm doing, uh, that to me is success. Being able to pay your bills and continue a career doing that act, to me, that's how I define success. Being able to continue the career. It's not awards, it's not publications. You can buy those, really. Um, you can. So for me, it's having a career and being able to continue doing what I love. That in and of itself is success, because not a lot of people get to do it.
Mhm. That's a beautiful viewpoint. Uh, I just recently talked with someone who's also working in, as a videographer and stuff, and
Yeah,
his soon to be wife was training to be a doctor. And I asked him, like, he was also like 10 years into the industry, and I asked him, what is your best advice, and about the things we are doing. And he said, realizing that we are so privileged that we are doing a job nobody really needs, if you know what I mean. Like,
hmm,
who needs a video? But there are many people who need a doctor. You
yeah,
so just not talking yourself down, but just realizing, like, it's a very special position you have, and
yes,
you should treat it as such, and you shouldn't be consumed by, as you just said, by the accolades and the trophies and so on.
very much. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so let's go on with the creative process and the your creative decisions you make. And I want to start your with everything you've done, because as I listen to your music, as I said before, I I heard many different versions of you, so to say. And I'm very interested in, how do you think the music you created changed you? That would be my first question.
um, I Well, the way I approach music, I guess, would be a way to explain it, is, generally speaking, I kind of already have the song in my head.
Mhm.
And the way I can actually verbalize that is, you know how some people can close their eyes and visualize something,
Mhm.
and they say that there's different, certain people can visualize certain details too. Like, if I told you to close your eyes and think of an elephant,
Mhm.
some people will only see the shape of an elephant, some people will see the shape and like the color, but some people can visualize the elephant in all of its details, like the bumps on its skin and the color of its eyes, like very, very, very in depth. That's how I am auditorially.
Mhm.
I can hear a song in my head before I've made it, which is fantastic because it makes the songwriting process so much easier, the production process so much easier. That's why I don't relate um, to producers that this is getting a little geeky, but or nerdy or whatever you want to say. But there's this meme almost that music creators and producers will say, "Ah, I spent 8 hours on a snare drum, getting the snare drum right." In my head, I've already heard what that snare drum is going to be. So I'm going to go look for that snare drum, or I'm going to make that snare drum, or I'm going to record that snare drum because I knew that was the one I wanted from the get-go. So where some people it might take weeks to finish a song, I can finish a song in about a day. But it's because the finished product is already here. Then it's just a matter of either writing it down or something to have a plan of attack to get there. Um,
Mm.
so yeah. Uh, oh, I think I lost you.
No, I'm still here. It's only my camera.
Oh,
Oh, I don't know why my camera turned off. But should be great.
there you
Okay. Uh-huh.
go.
Okay.
So, I'm wondering if that answered your
Yes,
question.
it definitely it answered my question, and I have a follow-up question for that because
Sure.
oh yeah, I think my camera is overheating. I don't know why, but uh, okay, we'll just continue with that one. It's all right.
Yeah, sure.
uh, let's position it on this side, and we're fine. Perfect. So I wanted to ask you about. You just said like you already have it in your head, and
Yes.
in preparation for this talk, I also watched a few videos from different composers, musicians, and so on. And one sentence from Hans Zimmer stood out to me.
Mm,
I think you know him. Who
of
doesn't know
course.
him?
Yeah.
uh, he said about songs and film music. The big difference between the two of them is with a song there is nothing. You start on a blank page, but with film scoring, film music, you already have something. So is it in that case still the same process you go through, that as soon as you have the film you know what it will be, or is it different there?
It's different. I actually uh, admire Hans a lot. He's
Hmm.
one of my biggest inspirations, and I actually uh, follow his process just because I enjoy it.
Hmm.
So, for instance, I just recently did a short film with an Assyrian director named Sargon Sadi.
Ah, yes.
Um,
Hmm.
we just finished a film called Mystery of the Flower, and um, he wanted music before the edit was done. So he had shot the film, but he said, I can't edit without music because it just feels weird. I don't know how to hit the timing right. So I ended up using Hans's technique of having him write me a letter from the
Mm.
character. And in this particular film, the character was his late uncle Saad Sadi,
Hmm.
and so he wrote me a letter in his voice, explaining what the film was about, but not really having it be a film. But he was trying to get the emotions out for me of how to frame my mindset,
Hmm.
what this poem was about. So another thing that Hans says is music for film is a conversation.
Yeah.
So where the actor or the film is speaking to the audience, it's a call, the music is a response. So the film is the call, the music is the response. So you need that call in order to respond to it. Um, so having written all of that just based off of the letter, I had maybe six, seven, eight different pieces now that that I thought fit, and sitting down with Sargon, because film is a very much collaborative effort as opposed to making your own music.
Mm.
Um, we started talking about what did he like, what was evoking the right emotion, what wasn't, instruments he preferred over not, and then after that, he was able to take these mock-ups that I created, edit to them. Once he was done with the edit, we were able to go back and actually write it bespoke to the scene, but the ideas were already there. It's just a matter of putting them together like a jigsaw puzzle at that point.
Mm.
Um, that actually sparked another idea. Is it's very different because the songs, at least from the way I made music, I was always a one man show.
Mm.
So the art was to serve me and my vision, whereas in film, you're serving our vision.
Mm. Mm.
Granted, the bosses are the producers and the directors, but ultimately it's a collaborative art. Everyone is putting in their work in order to create a piece together. And that's a major shift in mindset between uh, making songs versus scoring a film.
Mm. And which one do you like more?
Oh, they're different. It's I feel as though film music is more challenging. So there's, for me, it's like there's more on the line, and I actually feel more exposed
Mm-hmm.
doing film music because uh, to me, it could really make or break a film, in my opinion. You can have the best cinematography, best acting, best all of that, and then if your score is horrible, I think it really downgrades the overall film.
Mm.
So for me, it's more at stake because it's like you can let down your 150 coworkers in this moment. Whereas when I make music, for me, it's more therapeutic. Like there's been times where I've written music just because I was sad or because I was happy. It's very self-serving.
Mm.
Um, when I get it out and I finish the song, whether it goes out to the world or not, it did its job. It was to make me happy.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
Okay, very interesting. And do you do you think, looking a few steps into the future, that you will more or less stop completely in the end with your own songs, or is it still no? I want to be seen as a film composer or a scoring film scorer, and I still do my music stuff.
So my approach to that, it's funny you ask that because I feel like I've come to that conclusion in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm prioritizing what will feed my family. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm prioritizing score mixing. However, that doesn't mean I've stopped making music because I'm writing my next album, but it's very, very slow, and I don't really talk about it because I don't know when it's going to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, it's self-serving. I want to make this album, but if I have the money, if I have the time, I'll complete it. Um, and I am wanting to be a film composer. However, that market is very saturated. So I'm taking opportunities from friends or people that I admire and being able to flex those muscles and see where it goes. Um, if there's success in it by chance, then that's something I'll lean into in the future. But personally, I'm very content right now being a score mixer and score recordist. I love the work. Um, and I'm okay with if that becomes where I end up for the rest of my career. I'm okay with that because I still have my music to lean on, even though I'm not pursuing it as oh, Michael Badal is coming out with a new album
Mm.
or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yes,
It's
100%. Is
yeah.
it, would you describe it like also a bit like going, just going with the flow, like having your priorities, like as you said, feeding your family and fulfilling your responsibilities, but other than that, you just see which door will open and which door will close, and then you just walk ahead, so to say.
Yes. I would it's really funny. I like talking to you because I feel like I give these very long answers and you make it so succinct. Um yeah, yeah, that's basically what it comes down to.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think as a creative person myself, I can really relate with what you're saying. So maybe that's why I can put it in these few words. Uh, okay, so you already talked about. I think you touched on that a bit. How every project is different, right? So
Mhm.
there's not. Is there really uh, a first step that's always the same? Like, do you when there's work coming in, do you always make yourself a coffee and sit at your table and do this ritual, for example, or is it always different?
No, I'm very routinized. When it comes to if you're talking about approach to it creatively, that's always different
Mm-hmm.
because you never know uh like for instance the director what they would want. Like for instance when Sargon asked for music before the edit was done, I had to kind of think how am I going to deliver music without knowing what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's other times where you might have a director that already knows what they want the music to sound like, which could be a little demoralizing because now you have to compete with temp music.
Mm-hmm.
But at least in that sense, you know exactly what they want and you just do that. And then you might have a different director that says, go for it. Whatever you want to do, just do it. Here's the edit. Go ahead and score to it. So creatively, it does vary from project to project, but me as a person who wakes up in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very routinized.
Okay.
Um, I wake up and I make my coffee. Sometimes I procrastinate getting to my studio because I'm the type of person as soon as I'm here, I'm gonna be here until I hit a checkpoint, so to speak. Um, but yeah, I'll wake up, I'll play with my dog a little bit, talk to my wife, have a coffee, and then ease into the day. But it's like that every morning, pretty much.
Mm. Very interesting. I think I also read once. Um, I think it was a poet. He wrote once. Creativity always meets me at night at 9 a.m. at my desk. Also, like saying if you just go and sit there, you and do it all the time, there will come something like
Yeah, yeah,
and
definitely.
I think that's also maybe something, a suggestion for people working artistically. Don't rely on the magic somehow happening in a moment.
I completely agree with you. Um, like I've had questions in previous interviews where it's like, where do you get your inspiration from? I don't have a source of inspiration. There's times, like I also do music production for other artists,
Hmm.
right? You need to get that done.
Yeah.
One thing that's actually been helping me uh, stay on task is creating restrictions for myself. So one of the things that I think in this day and age, especially for young artists, that makes it almost impossible for them to get anything done is that there's too many possibilities.
Hmm.
So one of the reasons why I ended up going down this route of going analog,
Hmm.
uh, aside from the fact that I like the sound, there's only one of this. There's only
Hmm.
one of this. There's only one of this. You have to make decisions and you have to commit. And that's really it. In a world where you can have unlimited amount of sounds, unlimited amount of plugins, unlimited amount of this, unlimited amount of that,
Yes.
that is actually very daunting. The way I always say it is, what is easier for a painter? Giving them all the colors possible with a blank canvas and saying, go for it, or you tell them, I want a picture of a guitar and I want it to have white, blue, black, and gray.
Yeah.
Who's going to get done first?
It's the second one, 100%.
Exactly. So my process actually, in especially in the commercial sense of being able to finish and work quickly, because time is money. We,
Hmm.
as much as creatives, we like to romanticize the fact that uh, that what we're doing is art and it has meaning and whatever. It does, but at the same time, if you don't finish this project, you're not going to make your next paycheck. So what I've actually been doing is I've uninstalled most plugins that I haven't touched in months. And the reason why is because just clicking and seeing it in your list already immediately you're having decision fatigue
Mm.
right there. Secondly, when I have to come up with an idea for a client, there's people that I make house music for, so maybe that's why I don't really worry about making music because I have clients that I make music for. But they'll say I need like 4 ideas by tomorrow. Well, I'll set a timer, and usually it's like a 15-minute timer. I have 15 minutes for the drums, 15 minutes for the bass line, 15 minutes for
Mm.
the accompanying instruments, and 15 minutes to tweak the demo. So in an hour, I have a 32 bar or 24 bar idea that they can listen to and decide whether they want to move forward with it or not. But in that hour, I already know these are the things I need to hit. And since we're doing demos anyway, either the idea is going to be good or it's going to be bad. But instead of spending a day on it, you spent an hour on it and you can move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
I think restrictions are very, very important, especially for young artists, because if you restrict yourself, I think it forces creativity
Yeah.
and productivity. So
Great. Yeah. Great, great, great. So restrictions, less is more, basically what you're saying. And like
yes.
just seeing if you can't do something magical with a few things, what makes you think that you can do something magical with many things,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
And I also I realized that myself also working as a videographer. I as soon as I think about too many things I want to take in, it just my mind blows up, and I can't think clearly, and I think you as you also said, with the restrictions, you limit yourself, because we as human beings are limitless, our ideas are limitless, and if you
Yeah.
don't limit yourself, you maybe you end up with nothing most of the time.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's
that's
the weight of the unknown, actually, that just bogs you down.
yeah.
That's actually what caused I had writer's block after I finished my first album,
Hmm.
um, which actually came out 10 years ago now. It's
Now
it,
that we are human,
yep, that one.
that's a great album.
So after I finished that, um, I bought a new computer and it was much more uh pricey, and I was trying to justify the purchase.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because I had to wait until the album was done to get a new computer because things wouldn't sit right. I just didn't want to risk not having the album complete. So once it finished, I almost rewarded myself by buying this computer that I could barely afford. But I'm not kidding you. For 4 months, I couldn't get a song out because I felt as though this first song on this new computer and needed to be the best thing I ever made, because that's how I would justify to myself that the computer was worth it.
Yeah.
Um, and that massive amount of possibilities crippled me creatively.
Mm. I can relate it. I can relate to that 100%.
Yeah,
That's
like buying a new camera that
yes.
maybe you spent a little bit more on than
Uh-huh.
you intended. You're thinking, oh, my first project needs to be the most Scorsese thing I've ever done in my life.
100%. Yeah, yeah, that's so true. That's so true. So for everyone artistic, for everyone who's artistic and listening, try to do something with the things you have, and you will be astonished what you can accomplish with the things you already have. You don't have to look so far.
And go back to basics.
Yeah.
Back in the day, nobody had plugins on Adobe Premiere. Nobody had plugins on computers. We had tape machines, we had a mixing console, and we had some compressors and EQs here and there.
Mm,
And
yeah.
some of the best recordings of all time that still hold up today were done with very few things.
Yeah.
It's more about technique and knowing the tools that you already have, because nothing you will get marketed to on Instagram is going to be that magic tool that all of a sudden makes you a better mixer or videographer or editor or singer.
Yeah.
If you don't hone in your craft at the minimal stage, you're really just dressing up uh fakeness. I don't know how to explain it. When
Yeah.
all that is said and done, can you get it done? And if you can't,
Yeah.
uh, you have to keep working at it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And also one quote from Hans Zimmer to that. He also said you have to let go of this mindset that you only can achieve great film music with all the stuff I have. A great film music can be accomplished on an iPad, he said. it's
Mm,
it's the idea. It's the idea, and also, as you said, the techniques you use. Those are the
yeah,
things that are the most important, because uh, maybe you also know these videos where a pro cook gets very low grade ingredients, and amateur cook gets very high end ingredients.
yeah.
Which of those dishes will be better?
It's
And
always going to be the pro cook with the low grade ingredients,
yes, yes,
because they know what to do with it.
that's it. Okay, uh, going on. Um, Looking at the rapid technology technological changes we're going through right now. What do you think will change the most in the music industry in the coming years?
Personally, I think when it comes to the music industry, there's so many things rigged against the artist. Um, just payouts in general. I don't know if you've been following. It's been nearly confirmed. I'll just say allegedly, because everybody kind of knows it's happening, but it's not official because nobody has looked under the hood. But companies like Spotify and major labels are already using generative AI just to create filler music that are going to garner millions of streams, but it's
Mm,
only to make your cut of the pie smaller. They're looking for ways to not pay you.
mm,
Um, so I would say uh, technology is working against us because it's not in the hands of creatives.
mm,
It's in the hands of Fortune 500 CEOs and shareholders. So I would say ignore the noise, use the tools that are coming out to make your art better or more streamlined. I'm not against AI. I'm against generative AI, but there's some tools that have come out that have been amazing because of AI. Like for instance, in my world, if someone sends me a recording and there was a air conditioning fan in the background or something like that, AI can remove that, which in the
Yeah.
past that was not possible because that noise is dynamic and it's very hard to isolate. But AI is able to do that dynamically. So in terms of tools, I'm very excited to see what comes out from it. But um, generative AI is going to be your competition. But I would say don't worry about it because you already have that competition now in the sense that you have clients that don't want to pay a lot of money and they will buy stock music
Mm.
off of artlist.io versus hiring someone to do something custom. That same person that would just go to artlist.io and just license something that's pre-made is probably going to move over to generative AI and pay for that.
Mm.
You were never going to get that client anyway.
Yeah.
So I know the alarm bells are sounding off, but I now that I've had time to sit with it, I don't know if it's going to be as transformative as people say it's going to be. Because at the same time, too, I don't know if you've been hearing, it takes a lot of energy.
Yes.
So
Very much.
I personally think something like Sora, or maybe not Sora actually, maybe Suno AI, the generative music, if they don't start getting paid subscribers to pay for their power bill, I think they're going to go out of business anyway.
Mm.
So I would just say wait till the market uh, adjusts.
Yeah.
I personally see things like ChatGPT staying, text-based AI for sure, or generating like documents and things like that, spreadsheets. I can see Suno AI, not Suno, Sora,
Sora.
the one that does video.
Yeah. Sora.
I could see that staying because, for instance, I know this is messed up because it puts CGI people out of business, but
Mm.
let's say you want to create an indie film and you don't have $100 million to do it, something like Sora would help you
Yeah.
because you'd be able to motion capture just from your shot, and Sora would fill in the blanks with your 3D models and things like that. I think tools like that may stick around and it may threaten some jobs, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's doom and gloom altogether.
So I I agree also on your standpoint on that, and as you said, like just cut the noise. There's always way more talk than what's really what is really there, and
Yeah,
focus on your craft. You have so many, like you have so many things to learn, so many things to understand, so many things to do, that you shouldn't be concerned with the noise, because
agreed.
the the attention you give to the noise, that's what will doom you, not the noise itself.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I agree 100% with you on that. And because we also talked now a lot about techniques and stuff, we also want to give our viewers, as we said before, an entry maybe into the this industry. What would you recommend on which craft should you focus when you start out? On which techniques should you focus when you start out?
Um, I think it depends. Are you talking about like with Minecraft
Yeah,
or
with your
in
craft,
general?
with your, like in the music industry, a music,
Okay,
film, so and so on.
I would say the thing you should figure out is how to find your own voice.
Hmm.
Because right now, I'm telling you this, it's 90% of my music business right now is somebody will say, I want you to make me a song that sounds like this. No problem. I will do that and I'll make my money. But I'm telling you, that will not get you anywhere as an artist because that stake has already been claimed.
Yeah,
Someone has already planted their flag in that sound. That doesn't mean you have to come up with something completely new. You just have to come up with your own signature, your own voice. So what I would say is try to replicate artists that you like just from a research standpoint, not to put it out there.
Mm.
So let's say uh, in the dance world, you like Dead Mouse, you like Tiesto, you like this person. Get your favorite songs, try to make them
Hmm.
note for note. The only reason why I say that is because that is the best teacher you'll ever have.
Yeah.
Once you're able to replicate what you like, you now are putting tools in your toolbox that when it comes time for you to make your own thing, you might have a little bit of Tiesto, a little bit of Dead Mouse, a little bit of Armin, a little bit of this, a little bit of Paul Van Dyke in there. It's not that you're making a Paul Van Dyke song or a Tiesto song, but that unique blend of the different techniques that you learned from teaching yourself how they make their music will create your own signature voice, your own sound
Yeah.
without even realizing it.
Mm.
Think about it this way: food is made up of a finite amount of ingredients, right? But there's very many cuisines, there's different chefs, there's different restaurants. It's not like they're growing a new pepper that no one has ever heard before.
Yeah.
They're utilizing these finite ingredients in different ways to create their own taste.
Mm.
That's what you have to do with music as well.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to work with the ingredients and then make your own recipe.
Yeah. It's funny that you describe it like that because it's the exact same process I took. Like looking at edits that I really liked and I didn't know why I do like them so much, and then I tried to replicate them, and or replicate an intro scene, or replicate a nice sound design and so on. And as you said, now you are starting to collect your tools. You're starting to collect your tools, and if you have a new scene, now you can decide, okay, for this new scene, for this new environment, I collected four tools, and I can choose which I want to use now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's very interesting. That it's pretty much the same approach. I would say. And are there like zooming in on the technical details? Is there any software tools and stuff that you recommend for a beginner, or are you saying just use whatever you can get your hands on, and from then
I
you
say
can.
use whatever you can get your hands on. However, depending on what you want to do,
Hmm.
um, I am very heavily in Logic Pro,
Hmm.
very heavily. I create both dance music and film music in there. It's a very powerful software, and it works well with just in general music creation and production and mixing and mastering, but also it works very well with video and immersive formats and Dolby Atmos and all that. It's fantastic software. That's my recommendation. However, there are a lot of people that like Ableton Live. They like FL Studio. They like Pro Tools. But it doesn't matter which one you use. I would say try your best not to get sucked into the marketing scheme of buying plugins.
Yeah.
If you get yourself Logic, I guarantee you, you can come up with fantastic songs and fantastic mixes and have a finished sounding record using just their stock instruments and their stock plugins. The reason why I say that is because, again, you need to restrict yourself. Once you learn how to use that compressor in Logic or that EQ in Logic, that synthesizer in Logic, it's the same technique no matter what plugin you buy.
Mm.
But buying those other plugins isn't going to make you a better mixer. It's knowing what your attack, sustain, delay, decay, and release is.
Yeah.
It's knowing what the threshold ratio. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. 100%.
I'm throwing out terms here, but you need to know that. You don't need
Yeah.
a different style compressor. You need to know what you have already and know how to use it.
Yeah. 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 Just know the craft, not the tool. I think that summarizes it, right? Like,
Yeah, it even it applies to what you do.
yeah,
The, don't focus on getting rid of your stock lens and buying a, a really nice L lens if you don't know the difference between an aperture and a shutter speed.
yes,
What's the point?
yeah,
You
yeah,
need to know that. You need to know how light plays with a lens before you go buy a better lens
yeah,
or a better camera body.
yeah. I agree with that also completely. Looking at the time, I think we should speed up a bit because as you mentioned before, you still have a deadline you have to
Yeah,
finish. But it's very nice talking to you. So I hope it feels it feels shorter than it already was.
yeah,
Um,
no, I can't believe it's already been an hour.
yeah. So I will finish with I think 3 or 4 more questions if that's fine with you. And
Sure.
then okay, great. So I think we should look also at the challenges working in media in music. How do you react to setbacks? How do you what's your view on failures, so to say, uh, or when things don't go as you planned or don't go your way? How do you react to that, and how do you bounce back?
So I'm 20 years into the industry, and those things still happen. And the way I've come to deal with it is allowing myself the space to react. Um, like for instance, when this deadline changed, that I was telling you about, it was upsetting,
Yeah.
and I allowed myself, and my wife allowed me also to have that reaction and get it out of your system before coming up with a plan. You have to not let it consume you, and figuring out how to pivot, come up with a plan, rearrange your schedule, whatever it is. But challenges are upsetting, and it's okay to feel that upset. The difference is not allowing the upset to keep you down, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Because in our world, if you're not comfortable with rejection, I would say completely do not go into this industry at all.
Yeah.
Because uh, our entire industry is sell, pitch, sell. As much as we don't like to admit it, or we don't see ourselves as salesmen, we are salesmen. And you pitch an idea, you pitch a movie, you pitch a service, you pitch whatever. You're not going to get a sale every single time. In fact, like you said, it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
Uh, very much so. I want to say you maybe get 5 to 10% of the things that you pitch. So if you're gonna allow the other 90 to 95% of the time that you're being rejected to stop you, then this wasn't the right path to begin with.
Mm. That's also a very powerful statement. Just accepting rejection and not taking it too personally, because
Yeah,
tastes differ, and I also I know sometimes I have projects I pour my heart in, and then in the end the client tells me, well, I don't like the music you chose. and
mm,
and then also it's like, and I based everything on that music. The timing, everything was based on that music, and I was so convinced that's perfect.
yeah,
And then it's like you said, just relax. It's all right. It's all right. You can be upset, but don't don't expect that everything goes as you want it, because like who
it's
are
not
you?
going to.
Yeah. Yeah, we aren't God, gladly. So
Yeah,
it's a very high probability that not everything is going to happen your way.
yep.
Yeah. Uh, Great. Thank you for that. And I think we jump from the challenges because you answered. I think that's the most. important thing you said about how to handle challenges. So I think we can jump over a few questions here, going into your Assyrian identity and
Yeah.
and that stuff. And I also saw that there came a question in the chat, which also touches on that. Um, First, how much is your Assyrian identity part of the craft that you put out, the music you create? Because when I look at it, like dance music and Assyrian music, in my mind they don't have much in common. But maybe I'm wrong. So I would very much like to hear your thoughts on that.
It definitely could be fused really well. Um, I would say that my Assyrian identity and my upbringing has informed my taste
Hmm.
with the way I write. Um, because even though I'm not writing Assyrian music per se, I'm sure if you listen to my music, that that influence from my upbringing, it makes its way into there. It's part of your DNA. And although um, my heritage isn't centralized as far as when you talk about the business aspect of things, like for instance, me working on the Equalizer or the Night Agent, there's really isn't a space for me to insert my heritage in any way.
Yeah.
So for me, again, writing music for myself, there are times where I've written trance songs or progressive house songs that have that Middle Eastern element because I'm trying to feed a certain part of me that I wanted to express. Um, but I'm not shy about my identity. I'm very forward with it. Everyone that I work with, I think, knows I'm Assyrian because it comes up in conversation at some point.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's part of who I am, but even though it's not sometimes the focus of my art.
Okay, I understand. I will throw in the question from the chat because it touches also something here.
Sure.
The question was, how do you assess the current situation of Assyrian music, and how do you see the future of it? Do you look at it even? Like, do you listen
I do.
nowadays?
In fact, uh, I don't know if our people know what they want. I
Mm.
guess that's the frustration that I think I have with the Assyrian community musically, because I don't think they know what they want. Um, we complain that every song is about weddings, or it's Khigayakura, or
Mm.
it's Sheikhani, or it's Bagiye. We go to parties and we hear the same set list no matter who's singing.
Yeah.
But then when someone tries to do something different, we go, what is this? This isn't Assyrian music. This is horrible. You should stop singing. You're terrible.
Yeah.
That is, I encourage you guys to go on Instagram and just go look at some of these Assyrian music things. Is every song a hit? No. But there is more hate in these comment sections than there is support.
Mm.
I'm not saying there isn't any support, but me from the outside looking in, I personally don't see our people innovating in the music space because the audience doesn't want it.
Mm.
At least that's how I see it. If I'm looking at market, right? If I'm trying to assess a market, me as someone that would want to come in and innovate Assyrian music, I would say the market doesn't want it. The
Yeah.
market wants what
Yeah.
it's had since the 70s and
Mm.
continues to do so. So um I definitely think we can do it. Just listen to Arabic music.
Yeah.
Like the I don't know if you've heard of Eliana,
Mm.
this Arabic artist. She does pop music,
Mm.
but it sounds current. It sounds
Okay.
lively. It could be on the radio. She's doing music with Coldplay now. It's
Oh.
completely doable,
Yeah. Okay.
but we don't want to try it. We don't support each other in that
Yeah.
sense. And I think that's disappointing,
Yeah.
but hopefully that changes.
Yeah. Maybe it's also connected with a kind of fear of losing something something ancient, so to say. Even though ancient is a bit heavy word, is a heavy word, but I think in our community we are often driven a bit too much by fear, and we should, as you said, maybe be more open to change and open to new possibilities.
I agree. Well, to just to jump off of that, because I've done a lot of I connect with Assyrian music because, for instance, I really like watching at times the interviews that Andrew Betsergon does
Hmm.
with different artists. And one thing I've noticed across many different interviews, just on that one program, is it's not the artist's fault. In fact,
Mm.
they're encouraging young singers to stop singing other people's music and coming up with their own music. And they even explain that the reason why the music back then resonated with our people so much is actually not because it was Sheikhani or Chige Yahud or anything like that. They created that
Yes.
because of the times. It was an influence from funk music in the 70s, disco, um, singer-songwriter like Ashur Betsergis's music. Like if you listen to Sing Me a Lullaby, the album,
Hmm.
sounds very much like Cat Stevens or Jim Croce or these singer-songwriters of that time. So they were a product of their society, their times, but we kind of just froze there. And even those singers are encouraging to innovate and do something of the times. But from what I've observed, granted, the examples aren't immaculate. They're not done well. I get that. But the visceral reaction that the community has in these comment sections, if I was that artist, I would just stop.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
I was that producer, I would say, well, let's just go make another Zorna Daula, and like
And
that's what they
earn
want,
some
right?
money. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
100%.
know if that answered the comment
Yeah,
section's
yes, yes.
question, the chat's question.
I think definitely. And I think we also uh, gave some recommendations how we could change that. Uh, how we could change the future of the Assyrian music. Okay, jumping into the last questions. I would like to know from you if a student wanted to follow in your footsteps now,
Mhm.
if you had to give him one advice and you are only allowed to give him really like one short advice, one sentence, what would it be? What's the most important thing?
Be sure of the path that you want to be on, and don't let anybody get in the way of you following that path.
Mhm.
Um, the reason why I say that is I know I'm going past one sentence, but that's the sentence. The explanation for that sentence is with my upbringing, this work was always seen as a hobby. Uh, my parents and many parents in the Assyrian community don't see arts and media as a viable career path.
Yes.
So if you are resolute that this is what you want to do, figure out how to do it and go for it. Um, even if that means you don't have support behind you. But if this is what you love to do and that's what you want to do, figure out how to make it happen.
Great. Great. Uh, okay. One more question from the chat, and then we will go into the final question from the chat. Who's the one person who had influenced you in your life the most? I think he's not only talking about artists in general.
Person that influenced me the most. That's so tough. Um, honestly, I don't, I'm not sure.
would you have
I,
Would you have a person if it's if I told you to tell me an artist?
Um, if we're going for artist, I would say Hans Zimmer.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Um, but person, I would say honestly, my cousin.
Okay.
He regionally here in California, he was a very well-known DJ.
Hmm.
Just to go back a little bit, um, we both grew up in loving music from a very, very, very young age. So I started playing drums when I was 4 years old, and he picked up keyboards when he was 7. So growing up, we thought we were going to be Assyrian musicians. I was going to play percussion, and he was going to play keyboards. And then all of a sudden, he got into DJing and started listening to house music. I really liked house music. So while he was DJing, I learned how to make electronic music at 12, 13 years old.
Hmm.
But then that influenced him to make music as well. So there's always this push and pull throughout my formative years growing up. And it was this best friendship with my cousin Zaya, um, because I did drums, he responded with keyboards. He did DJing, I responded with producing. And it was just this push pull. We had a really good time making music together for like 20 years, our first 20 years of being on the earth.
Mm. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that also connects with the sentence: "If you want to go far, go together."
Yeah.
If you always push each other and inspire each other, you will do way more than you would have ever done if you were alone.
Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
okay, Michael. Final question. Our final questions are somewhat of they're very imaginative. So let's see what your answer will be to this final question I thought of for you. Michael, if you had to compose a score or a song that defines your own life story till now, what would it sound like?
So actually, this question kind of makes me happy because I feel like, remember when I was telling you uh, I make music for me?
Hmm.
Genuinely, I think the music that I put out there is representative of that. It has orchestral, electronic, Middle Eastern, all wrapped into one. Actually, I'll tell you, we're releasing the soundtrack for Mystery of the Flower, Sargon Sadi's film.
Hmm.
It's coming out on March 7th.
Okay.
Because if you haven't seen the film, you wouldn't know the score, obviously. So the score's coming out. That I think I'm so proud of it just because it's a culmination. I got to do something that it was a culmination of so many of my influences. Because the film spans so many different scenes, we have orchestral, we have electronic in it, we have Ashur Adam singing Rawe on it,
Hmm.
but then I also got Hans Zimmer's violin player to play a Middle Eastern melody that I wrote.
Oh, okay.
It's a 5 minute 50-second piece, but there's so much going on in it and it moves in so many different stages that I think once you hear that, I would say that sounds like me.
Okay, great. I'm very much looking forward to that. So everybody, note, uh, uh, take notes. March 7th, the song will come out, and then we will hear what Michael Badal's life in music form will sound like.
Yeah, as if I already didn't like that enough. That question made me like it even more because it's very representative. I think you guys are gonna like it.
Okay, great. Well, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. Michael, thank you very much for your time that you took out of your schedule, even though you have such a tight deadline. And
Thank you guys for having me.
you're welcome. You're more than welcome. And maybe we will continue with a part 2 because I like this conversation very much.
Great, I'm glad.
uh,
I enjoyed it very much as well.
that I'm glad about that too. Thank you very much. So, everybody, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already done so, and follow us for more interviews with special people who see the world as something beautiful and something where we can put our footprint on. So have a nice evening or a good day from wherever you are watching, and see you next time.